I'm going to be sharing with you in this video why a lot of people are not actually spiritual bypassing when they think that they might be. Because a lot of people might not realize how much power that they actually have in their life, the level of consciousness that they've gotten to somehow. They don't know how they got there. Maybe they did meditation. Maybe who knows how they got there. But for whatever reason, they're at a certain level of consciousness where they can feel this intuition to go in a certain direction. And by the way, we'll get to this later, but I believe that a lot of people on the planet are naturally already at this level of consciousness. I believe that our natural state of being is to be in a state of not just non-resistance, but joy and in alignment with what our soul actually wants to create. That's what I believe. I believe that that's what's happening here. And that we've created this thing called spirituality so that we can reconnect back to who we actually are and to start loving again, to start appreciating again. And so we've come up with this thing called spirituality just so that we can get back to the neutrality and then start to actually live life in alignment with who we actually are again. And that shadow work is just something that we constructed in order to get back to who we actually are so we can start to create and be creators again. And of course, part of the infinite is to have that created too, which is nothing wrong with that. But what I believe is that the timeline that I'm shifting into is where I'm starting to see a reflection of people also honoring what I've personally been honoring in my life recently. And I'm going to share with you in this video why I believe that spiritual bypassing is something that a lot of people are not actually doing, and why they're actually truly they are following their intuition, and why there might be some certain programs that might try to convince them why they should listen to those programs when they know in their hearts that going in that direction will cause unnecessary density, unnecessary dense energy that's not needed in that moment, because each moment is infinite. This reality doesn't work through just logic. Logic is a part of reality, but another part of reality is to understand that there is an infinite capacity for things to happen in each present moment. So we're going to talk about in this video why spiritual bypassing is something that I believe a lot of people are not actually doing, and why I believe that a lot of people have full permission to honor their intuition and what truly feels good. That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. And also why following your highest excitement is not spiritual bypassing. But we're also going to talk about maybe why it could potentially be, depending on certain scenarios, just to account for that, because I have a sense that a lot of people are going to have that question like, oh, but how is there a scenario where it actually might be spiritual bypassing? Of course there is, but I believe that a lot of the times it's not, and we believe that it is. And then of course my belief is that we cause unnecessary density. Now, before I go into this video, I just want to share with you that my ideas are always changing. I'm a changing being, okay? I'm not just a human being, I'm a spiritual being, and however you want to look at it, there's always change happening. So these ideas might be something that resonate with me now, and they do truly resonate with me, but you might find that in 6 months, I'm different. I might even have different ideas tomorrow. Each moment we're recreating ourselves. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in this video as well. So let's get right into the video. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button, and I want you to hit that notification bell. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. Now, here's what I truly believe, is that we, as a soul and a spirit, always are at a certain level or at a certain point, or just somewhere. We're somewhere in this universe. We don't know how we got there, why we got there, what's happening. Of course, at some level of consciousness, you do know why you're there, but at some level you don't. But every soul is somewhere, whether they are conscious of it or not, whether they're conscious that they're at that place at that time and they have a certain soul's resonance that they're following, or they don't realize that they're doing that. My belief is that whether you realize it or not, your whole life, you've been following your resonance. You've already been following your excitement. Even if you do a thing called shadow work, or you do something, nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, like, for me, it became a limitation. Check out my video on the trap to shadow work right over there if you want to know more about that. Now, it doesn't matter if you're doing shadow work, if you're in a relationship that maybe is abusive, or whatever the case is. Maybe there's something in your life that's dense. There's a dense energy to it, right? And for whatever reason, whether you consciously step into that dense energy or you go away from the dense energy, or it doesn't matter. Like everything in life you've ever done has been to feel more love and to connect more to a feeling of wholeness. That's exactly what you've been doing. It doesn't matter why you did what you did or why you think you did what you did. That's exactly why you actually did what you did. Now, here's what I realized. So just to give you a quick little history and a quick little recap, I did what you call shadow work for years, okay, for years. And I'm not saying that I don't do it now, it's just that I believe that I've reached a certain level of consciousness and awareness where I had to redefine shadow work just a little bit in order to get to a certain point where I'm at now, in order to make it so that I'm more in alignment with my spirit. Now, I'll tell you this. Have you ever had a situation where you tried to control something so much? Maybe there was an issue on your computer, maybe there was a problem with something in your house, or whatever the case is. We don't need to give specific examples, but energetically, there was a density there. There was a density. Something about it didn't feel that good. There was a denseness. Did you ever have that before? And then you realize that, you know what? I can't take this. This is too dense. I'm overly controlling this situation. This is too much. You decide, you know what? I'm just going to let this go and I'm going to go for a walk instead, or I'm going to go outside instead, or I'm just going to call my friend instead. You just follow that inclination, that natural, like, okay, obviously focusing on this is not working. I'm putting too much attention on this. I'm creating resistance in my body. And then it's like, you just say, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go outside for a walk. And you go outside for the walk, and maybe for me, this always happens. I'm listening to music, I'm dancing, and then there's the idea. Like, you got to realize that half the ideas I come up for this channel don't happen when I'm in density. You ever notice that the best ideas come when you're in the shower or when you're walking? And then so for this scenario, that issue you tried to fix, you go outside and then somehow that issue is completely fixed. Or you get the idea to fix it, or something happens. But because from that density, you couldn't figure it out. You raise your level of consciousness and you into a state of non-resistance. I don't want to say raise level, I guess in a way you raise the level of consciousness, but you raised you got to a higher vantage point. You got to a higher vantage point, okay? You got to a state of less resistance than you were a second ago. You got to a state of, I'm at a higher vantage point. That's the best word that I can use for this moment. Now, what happened is that you couldn't have that idea from this vibration here because that density wasn't connected to higher vibrational thoughts. You see? So you let it go and then you figured it out. Now, have you had that experience before? I have that experience all the time. And the more that I try to figure things out with my dense energy, nothing usually works. In fact, it starts to progress. I start to see how the external world reflects exactly what I don't want and how I'm putting more attention on what I don't want. And then I also created a philosophy around why I should do that every single time. So for me, every single time something didn't resonate, I put myself in that scenario. And you know what I believe? You know what I believe? I believe that can cause a lot of tension for the body. It's so, it's not a good thing to constantly put yourself into tension. That's what I believe. I'm not saying you should listen to this. For me, it doesn't feel healthy to do that, to be constantly trying to figure things out with the ego, when I know that I can choose to shift into what resonates. And so this is why we're here. And this is the point at the video where we've gotten to. And I'm going to answer the question. So Francis, are you going to answer the question? Yes, we are. Why is following your highest excitement not spiritual bypassing? Because I believe we have a choice. We always have a choice. It's always a choice to focus on exactly what you want to resonate with. You always have a choice to shift your attention to what resonates and shift your attention to what resonates and not to shift your attention to what does not resonate. Not from a place of fear, not from a place of resistance. By the way, if you're attracted to this content, you're most likely vibrating at a certain resonance where you're no longer vibrating at an energy of fear. And if you weren't at that level of vibration, you would not be attracted to this content or listening to me talk this long. So most likely you're not at fear. And what you can do is you can simply shift your attention to what actually resonates without worrying about being scared that that thing is not in alignment for you or whatever the case is. Because understand that lack does not actually exist. Lack doesn't exist. Lack is a construct that you've created in your mind. It's not real. It's not real. Lack is not real. It exists in the sense, in the infinity it exists, but from your relative human point of view, that lack based on that causes a contraction in your body. It causes a contraction in your body because it's not something that you should focus on. Surprise, your emotional guidance system, your whole life has been telling you to shift into what you want and to not shift into what you don't want. Your whole life that's been happening, okay? And I believe that when we focus on something that is clearly causing density, obviously you're gonna create more of that because energy flows where attention goes. What you resist actually persists. So you think, oh, I need to go into that situation and not resist it so I can fix it, right? No. Maybe you've already learned how to stop resisting it. That's what I believe. I believe there's a shift in consciousness happening. I believe that a lot of people are already naturally at a state of non-resistance, so we don't need to clear anything out as much. We need to focus on what resonates, connect back to who we are, and disconnect from the social programs. Because there's programs here. There's nothing wrong with these programs. There's no judgment towards these programs. But the question is, do you want to live your life or do you want to live somebody else's life? That's the question. Whose life did you come here to live? Did you come here to live somebody else's life that obviously doesn't resonate with your heart? Or are you gonna live your life? That's my question. So for me, that's what I had to realize is that, okay, am I gonna live my life, what resonates with me? Am I gonna listen to what other people see? And it's not about judging people or resenting anybody. This is about shifting into what your heart actually wants. And so why I believe following your highest excitement is not spiritual bypassing, I'll tell you why right now. Because in order to not focus on a negative contracted emotion and thought and shift to a thought or an experience or an idea or something in your consciousness that does resonate, whether it's shifting to the present moment or shifting to a thought or dancing, it doesn't matter. Consciousness is infinite. I'm not saying you have to do meditation in particular. By the way, if you do want to meditate though, check out the free guided meditation to align with your heart that I just created recently. You can check it out in the description box of this video and in the comments of this video to align with your heart. Free meditation, you can use that. But you don't have to use that free meditation if it doesn't resonate. If you're like, hey, that meditation doesn't really resonate with me, well then don't download it because maybe you don't feel like doing that meditation. Maybe what your heart and soul really wants to do is to go outside for a walk, you know? And then if you feel like not doing the meditation and you feel like going outside for a walk, does that mean that you're scared to not do the meditation? And then imagine if I came in and said, oh, you need to be doing this meditation because that's the only way for you to grow. And if you're not doing this meditation, you're running away from your shadow and you're not doing the inner work. When really you're just like, no, I just kind of, you see what I'm saying? Like, in order for you to ignore something that doesn't resonate and to shift into what does resonate, that takes a certain level of awareness and consciousness. So for me, honestly, this is gonna sound very egotistical, but I had to come to the point and honor the fact that, hey, I'm not like me personally, and I believe a lot of people on the planet are the same. They just never gave themselves permission to realize that's already the case. I believe that we already are whole and complete and that we just need to shift to what resonates, and it's just that simple. And I believe that the more that I do this, the more that things start to flow, the more that I see the synchronicities. And my whole life, this is exactly what I've been doing. And again, in order to not focus on that, it takes a certain level of consciousness. So the short answer to the video is that the specific reason I believe it's not spiritual bypassing is because in order for a person to be running away from something, they have to be completely unconscious of it. Completely unconscious, okay? You need to be completely unconscious of a thought or an emotion that causes a contradiction, and then maybe you go for that walk, but you literally didn't even know. You had no conscious awareness at all of that negative emotion in your body, like zero, no awareness at all. You're just so unconscious for whatever reason. Again, I believe a lot of people are not at this level of consciousness anymore on the planet. Maybe that was the case a lot. I don't believe that's the case anymore. And if you're attracted to this content, you're probably not at that level of consciousness. In fact, I believe that there's a shift in consciousness happening where a majority of the planet in our timeline where we are is what I'm describing here at that level of consciousness. But see, in order to notice a thought, notice a contraction, and then shift your attention to maybe your heart space, maybe the present moment, maybe to the music that you're listening to, maybe to follow an inclination to call a friend. The reason why Lifetime Spiritual Bypassing is because you had to be aware of that thing to shift into what resonates. There's a difference between looking at something, seeing it, and then choosing to focus on something else, and then focusing on something else, but you didn't even know that was there, you see? And for the longest time, I didn't even realize that for me, I already see everything. I'm already conscious. Like, it sounds like an egotistical thing, but obviously there might be like some traumas that I need to revisit one day or something, you know? Like, I'm not saying there's not a time and place for shadow work, but when it comes to everyday practical living and following your heart, for me, it became very impractical and dysfunctional and even fear-based to be consistently analyzing these contractions that don't happen much more because I shifted my values. Like, I don't experience that much anxiety, and when I do, it's very short and it goes away, and I instantly learn lessons, and I go, thank you, God. I learned so many, like, not think to myself that God is like everything, right? Just thank you, like I show gratitude. Like, when you get out of that density, you learn a lesson every single time. There's lessons to learn. All dense energy is just a contrast for you to learn certain lessons and then to shift back to your natural state of being. That's what I believe. So the short answer is, you cannot shift your attention to what resonates if you're not at a certain level of consciousness. And I believe a lot of people are that level of consciousness. And you can't be running away from something if you see it. Noticing something and seeing it already is the letting go. Okay? So keep that in mind. When you see something, Francis, how do I let it go? I notice all this anxiety in my body. How do I let it go, Francis? You already are letting it go. You already see it. How do you let it go? By shifting your attention to something else. The way you let it go is by moving on. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm communicating? You let go by moving on, not by focusing on that thing. How can you let go of something by focusing on it? It's like, Francis, when when I focus on this thing, all I see is this thing. How do I let it go? Stop focusing on that thing. Francis, I keep thinking about blue elephants. And I don't know why, but I keep seeing blue elephants. How do I let go of blue elephants? You know, I even tried to write a campaign about why blue elephants are not something that I should be focusing on. And I just keep asking everybody. I just ask all my friends, why do I see these blue elephants everywhere? Just blue elephants here, blue elephants there. Maybe you write a Facebook post on blue elephants. Maybe you try to call up all your friends. You see what I'm saying? But what are you manifesting when you do that? When you try to understand why there's so many blue elephants popping up in your experience, and you don't know why they're there, and you try to figure it out and analyze it, why are there so many blue elephants? Because you keep focusing on it. And so blue elephants, that might be anxiety, shadow work. This is it. This is what I call the healing trap. Okay? So what you want to do is noticing a negative emotion, notice how that is consciousness. That's you already noticing that something doesn't resonate. What do you do there? Don't question it. Don't analyze it. All that is at least, not like for me, this is what I noticed. I noticed that for me, whenever I notice a contraction, all that's pointing to is that something that's out of alignment with what my heart truly actually wants. And I know that already, so I don't have to analyze it or investigate it. So that's the video, okay? I encourage you to trust your heart. I encourage you to trust your spirit. I encourage you to trust your resonance. Like I said, I believe that a lot of people on the planet are waking up, and I encourage you to trust your resonance above all else. Don't trust me. Don't trust your mentors. Don't trust your coaches. Don't trust your society. I'm not saying to not have these tools. I'm not saying to not trust them out of fear. I'm not saying to not trust them because you're scared. I'm not saying to not have connections and not trust people, even though that's kind of what I just said. I'm saying to have the connections, have the trust, have the relationships, have all the things you want in your life. But at the end of the day, you decide what's in resonance for you, okay? Even after this whole video you watched, if you decide, oh my gosh, Francis, that resonated with my heart so much, right? Or maybe you decide, oh my gosh, I didn't resonate with that at all. trust that maybe you didn't resonate with what I said. But keep in mind that you're doing what I said by honoring that you don't resonate with this video. You're already doing what I said anyways. You see what I'm saying? I'm just pointing out what's already happening here. That's all I'm doing here. So for me, I'm so grateful to have learned these lessons. I'm so honored to have realized that I have full permission to honor my heart and what I truly want. And we all have that permission. And I can give you permission to that, but you don't need that permission. I encourage you to give yourself permission to always honor what resonates, even if you don't resonate with this, to honor even that as well. Okay? So that's all I have for this video. Hope that gave you some value. Hope that gave you what you needed. And enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.